hear the real, no far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
Although the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. And though the darkness round me calls, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? Keep singing. Keep singing.
Good morning. These words from Kimberly and Tom Zach Carlson. It's not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief and a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that opens its arms open to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. And I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, your new settled minister. My pronouns are she, her, and it's my pleasure to greet each of you this morning, online and in person. And so we begin with the lighting of the chalice.
Good morning. What, no clapping? Jeez. My name is Barbara. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm honored to serve as the lay presence in the pulpit today. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words together. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm over here. Hey! My name is Katie Seaford, and I'm your Director of Music Ministries. My pronouns are she and her, and it is so lovely to be with you this morning. I do want to give a big thanks to my song leaders and piano accompanists who have provided music during July and August while I got to have some time with my family. So thank you, Noelle Hyman, Lynn DeMuth, I don't know if you're here. Woo, you are. Linda Horton, Sue Keen. She here? Thank you for providing fabulous music. We really appreciate it. And now we're going to fill this sacred space with some music. So stand in body or in spirit, and we're going to sing, it may be a new song for some of you, maybe not, but it's called Holy, Holy Way, and it's a call and repeat. Real simply, you'll hear me sing, oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. And then you all repeat, let me love in a holy, holy way. So it's really simple. I invite you to move your body and allow this to be our prayer this morning. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love when things don't go my way.
Way to get us moving, Katie. Thank you. I'm Marcy Bowden. I'm your Director of Faith Forum Ministry here at Valley UU, and I also use the pronoun she, her. Now is the time for our story for all ages. Any children in-house can come sit in front. Make sure you can see the screen. If you have children at home, now's the time to bring them in front of your device. All right, we've got some kids today. So, does everybody remember the nursery rhyme about Humpty Dumpty? Can you help me say it? Guys, can you help me? Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. You probably are wondering what the heck that has to do with our theme today, right? So today's book is a bit of an epilogue, a sequel to that story about Humpty Dumpty. And its purpose is to encourage us all to overcome our fears and to learn to get back up and to reach for new heights. So this is the book. It's called After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again by Dan Santat. So let's meet the first slide. Thank you. After the fall, Humpty Dumpty got back up again. He says, "My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know, it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. And then one day I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall." Let's go back one slide, please. There we go. Which sounds a little bit grand, and it was just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together again. Next slide. Well, most of me. Can you see him lying there on the floor? There were parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. Do we know what he means by that? What parts couldn't be healed? What do you think? What do you think, Tavi? His what? The yolk, maybe? Yeah. What do you think, Daniel? The shell? The shell? Maybe his inside? Maybe his heart and his fear? That's why he wasn't sleeping. Notice where his bed is. His bed's up high. He was a little scared of that, right? Okay, next slide. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. So if you can see on the screen, where are all the really fun, sugary, colorful cereals? He would have to climb the ladder, wouldn't he? Can you see in Humpty's hand? He's got one of those kind of grayish blue boxes. Probably has a lot of bran or fiber in it. But he was too afraid. He was too uncomfortable to climb back up that ladder, wouldn't he? Because he'd have to reach high. Okay, next slide. So I walked past this wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being up high above the city, but I could never do it because I know accidents happen. So eventually, next slide, yeah, there you go. Eventually, I settled for watching the birds from the ground. Can you see he's got some binoculars there? Yeah. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. And then one day, an idea flew by. Do you see what flew by up there? It doesn't look like a bird. What does it look like? A paper airplane. So, on the next slide, he decided to make a paper airplane. But it was harder than he thought. And it was easy to get cuts and scratches. Have you ever gotten a paper cut? But day after day, I kept on trying and trying. Oh, he looks a little frustrated, doesn't he? Until I got it right. Ooh, that's quite a paper airplane. My plane was perfect. It flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. Oh no, what's going to happen to his plane? Is it going to get stuck up there too? So I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all that time I spent working on that plane and all the other things that I'd missed out on, and I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up, I didn't look down, I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Now, maybe you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling anymore. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up. Looks pretty happy, doesn't he? His shell, it's looking a little cracked, and are those leaves, or what are those orange yellowy things all over him? Let's try the next slide. Oh dear, I see pieces of eggshell flying away. What do you suppose happened? Oh my goodness! Next slide. He learned to fly. It never occurred to me to wonder what kind of egg Humpty Dumpty was. Apparently he was a bird waiting to hatch, and he got to fly away. That's a good ending for Humpty Dumpty, don't you think? Yeah. All right, so now we are going to sing our children out to class. Guys, remember, we're going to go out the glass foyer and outside. If you all form a bridge of love, and we will sing This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Gosh, it's good to have the band again. Woo! So good morning again, and welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation and this sacred space. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone who is present with us today, including those of you in person, as well as those of you online. And let's now say hello to each other in person and online, and to welcome them. Look at the camera over there. Otherwise, you're just staring at the picture. So we say hello. We're delighted you're here to worship with us today and welcome you, respecting your age and able-bodiedness, your spiritual beliefs, your religious background, your family, economic status, and political affiliation. We respect your way of loving. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we welcome you to this sacred space of love and community. Let this time together be a coming together to honor diversity in all its forms and to welcome each other with openness, compassion, and care. We're always delighted to welcome guests among us. For those of you visiting VUU today, either online or in person, we invite you to raise your hand or stand so that we can greet you now and after the service. Anyone? For those of you attending in person and wanting to know about Unitarian Universalism and Valley UU, a welcome circle will form in the sanctuary after the service. So get a beverage and look for the welcome circle sign. It's big, you can't miss it. And then join the discussion. Or just stay and chat. We're a friendly group of folks and would love to get to know you better. If you're visiting online, you will be able to join a breakout room discussion. Simply accept the Zoom invitation that will appear following the service. Now, if you come with a burden that you'd like to share with someone, a trained pastoral care associate will be available after the service, both in person and online. Our pastoral care associate in person today is Melissa Bush. And Melissa will wait at the very front of the sanctuary immediately following the service. Alternatively, if you're viewing online, Carl Anderson will be on Zoom immediately following the service, and just send him a chat message and he'll be able to get in touch with you. Also, the lay pastoral care team associates are available throughout the week via email at pastoralcare@vuu.org. And that information is also available on our website. For those of you here in the sanctuary, there is a quiet room on your right for use during the service for anyone needing a timeout. It's soundproofed and has a speaker so you won't miss anything. In our pulpit today is our newly called minister, the Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan. Yay! The topic of the service today, including her reflection, is ambiguity and resilience. To celebrate and welcome her to our community, we have a special cake for the social time following the service. Any excuse for a Costco cake is a good one, I say. And the Costco cake is merely a vehicle for the frosting. Blessed be.
We're going to invite you into a responsive reading this morning. So you'll be reading along with Barbara as she says her words following mine. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us.
Remind us that we are not alone in history.
Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition.
Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future.
Anchor us with patience and perseverance.
Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain.
Comfort us with your spirit, manifest in human hands and voices.
Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder.
Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in the diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love.
Rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice.
Source of stars and planets and water and land,
open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead.
So may it be. Blessed be, and amen. And I invite you now into a time of deeper centering. This might feel like prayer for you, or meditation, or just creating a quiet space to be in this place and time with the people here today, the folks online, anyone you bring with you in your heart. If you wish to light a candle or move a stone, we invite you to do that. And when we start singing, we invite you to sing whichever lines speak to you. You'll know what to do when your heart moves you to do it.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out,
Today, we're exploring the notion of ambiguity and paradox and resilience as a spiritual compass. I find it paradoxical that we live in a state of perpetual ambiguity, yet we're hardwired to believe in permanence. This summer, I've been exploring a deeper understanding of how thoughts and emotions arrive on their own, and if I believe the stories they bring, I often cause myself unhappiness. However, if I just acknowledge the thought and subsequent emotion without labeling them as good or bad, I can stay in a place of neutrality. This state of neutrality exists for me when I accept the ambiguity of life. And through acceptance of that state of mind, I'm free to find beauty and even joy. The Buddha might call this enlightenment, the kind of profound change of heart, no matter how small it may be. I'm a Zen Buddhist practitioner and use koans to distract my mind from the random and sometimes bad thoughts that appear out of nowhere. My teacher, John Tarrant Roshi, says of koans that they, quote, are not intended to prescribe a particular kind of happiness or right way to live. They don't teach you to assemble or make something that didn't exist before. Many psychological and spiritual approaches rely on an engineering metaphor and hope to make our mind more predictable and controllable. Koans go the other way. They encourage you to make an ally of the unpredictability of the mind and to approach your life more as a work of art. The surprise they offer is the one that art offers. Inside unpredictability, you will find not chaos, but beauty. Koans light up a life that may have been dormant in you. They hold out the possibility of transformation, even if you are trying to address unclear or apparently insoluble problems. End quote. The koan I've been wandering with this summer goes like this. The great way is not difficult if one doesn't pick and choose. I've also heard it like this. Every day is a good day if you don't pick and choose. I first heard it a decade ago, but this summer it has taken me to a deeper level of understanding how my mind works. I find that it's the picking and choosing that some thought is either bad or good that gets me into trouble, and in some crazy way, I think I believe the bad thoughts over the good ones, even though that choice makes me sad and lonely. Go figure. I'm often drawn to self-help experts who offer an almost technical, maybe engineering approach toward making my mind more predictable. You know what I'm referring to? The short articles or memes that begin with, here are 3 to 10 easy steps to find happiness or self-control. 1, 2, 3, etc. It is the simplicity of working with koans that draws me to the practice. This is not to suggest that koans are simplistic, because they aren't. Instead, they're inexplicable. For those of you with dogs, I think koans are kind of like a Kong ball for the mind. But having a koan wandering around in my mind gives it respite from the rising and falling thoughts and stories, which then over time become less and less sticky, allowing me to experience lightness, even resilience. It seems to me that we seek to resolve the fear of not knowing with permanence and predictability, but neither is really possible. Instead, when we can live with ambiguity, we can find resilience. Perhaps it can be said of every time, but it seems to me that in this current time, accepting ambiguity is essential for our individual and collective well-being. The going is going to get tough as we move through this election and the next, and our collective human tendency will be to attempt to see only the good-bad binary, to tenaciously pick and choose. However, accepting the ambiguity of existence is a way to resilience and joy. Blessed be.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Yeah. Hannah Alexander says, I've come to see that resilience is the opposite of toughening up. It requires mental suppleness, flexibility, and raw vulnerability that allows us to dive deeply into our psyche, especially the broken places, and see ourselves, our thoughts and feelings, our beauty and longing, hurts and wounds and shadows, our worst delusions and misdeeds, those bad thoughts we were just talking about, and to hold all of that with compassion and curiosity and loving care. And when we become more tender with ourselves, she says, we can see a path to becoming more tender with others too. And we see our full humanity with loving eyes, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we can also see that fullness in others and recognize their triumphs and losses, delusions and misdeeds, and maybe even see their wounds that need binding and dreams that call out for nurturing. When we understand resilience that way, the world opens up to us. It reveals strong places and the broken ones too. It calls us to pause and commit to the true human work, and that is the source of our thriving and our real power. And I like what Maya Angelou says as well. She says, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Yeah, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. So this might be the mantra for congregational life as we move through the pandemic and all the changes in our communities that are impacting our capacity to be together and to build community together. We've been learning to sustain community and ourselves even as we live with many uncertainties, learning to plan into a future that feels nebulous and sometimes even shadowed. If the secret to happiness is a high tolerance for ambiguity, then we should all be feeling a lot happier, right? But I wonder if we have really built our tolerance for ambiguity, or have we instead projected our displeasure for the ambiguity onto people in situations which are not actually responsible for the situations we're in. So in these times of uncertainty, we could insist on straight lines, alternative facts, unchanging clarity, and comforting deceit to hold back time and change, and everything else that induces fear and anxiety in the world. We could insist that things go back to the way they were, as if that were possible, or try to superimpose order, as she was describing, on our experience of chaos. Instead, we must learn to live with ambiguity and embrace paradox, because this leads to truth, even if tentative, and wisdom instead of certainty. So how will we make this shift? I've learned a lot about living with uncertainty from my friends who've traveled incredible distances and immigrated into new countries and cultures in order to sustain their families' basic needs for housing, food, shelter, and safety. I met a family from El Salvador. It's been about 4 years now, or 3 years. And I helped them to pursue asylum by sponsoring them to move to Topeka, Kansas, after they walked over vast stretches of land in Central America and Mexico to arrive at our border. I learned a lot from this family, watching them adjust to the United States and make a life far from home after experiencing incredible trauma. And I have been continually amazed by what I see as their deep resiliency. They have maintained a deep sense of love and closeness with each other, but also with a large network of other people that they traveled with and who've ended up all over the country, and even some who are still stuck in countries that they traveled through. It was 4 of them, and now they have a lovely toddler who makes 5. And actually a whole nother family, her sister and her family joined them. They have had a ready sense of humor and play, and they always find something to laugh about. Their openness to new friends and commitment to relationships with each other and with friends and family is clearly central to their values. And they had strong ties to a church community in El Salvador, and they were eager to find a church community here in the United States. But one of the first things that they asked me, like a week into being into this country, and they had seen their first snow, and everything was up in the air, nobody spoke English yet, the mom asked me, "Where do you go dancing?" I want you to wonder if that would be one of your first questions a week into a new situation. But that was her question, where do you go dancing? That's resilience, isn't it? Both of her older kids made friends, they engaged in school activities, and enjoyed exploring their new home. And it wasn't easy. The kids didn't always sleep well. They experienced nightmares and memories of their trauma. Learning English and reading and writing didn't happen overnight. And although initially they were not allowed to work or drive, just imagine what that's like to rely on somebody else for all of those things. After 1.5 years, the mom got permission to work and got a good job, learned to drive and got a license, opened a bank account with cash she had stuffed away, and bought a car. She was so proud to show me that car. For a long time, they had to rely on a lot of help to get things like groceries, to go to school events for the kids, make it to appointments and see doctors and attorneys. And while their story is still being written, they made it through a long time of waiting to hear from a judge just this Friday that they have been granted asylum and can begin the path to citizenship. That made my whole month, just knowing that. They've lived with uncertainty for so long, and I wonder if I would be able and capable of the same resiliency if our situations were reversed. I wonder if any of us would. Some of you have gone through similar situations. So Andrew Zolli and Anne-Marie Healy define resilience as the capacity to maintain our core purpose and integrity in the face of dramatically changed circumstances. I think all of us can find a place in our lives where we have experienced dramatically changed circumstances. Our organizations have as well. How are we each maintaining our sense of self and our shared sense of purpose in the face of those dramatically changed circumstances? I think resiliency is a quality and capacity that most of us would like to understand better. And for me and my family, after moving across the country twice, starting new jobs, sending a kid to college, learning to raise a kid outside of gender binaries, and joining households with my mom, all at once, not individually, all at once, I know resilience is something I need to develop more of in my own life. The fear of collapsing or losing ourselves is very real in these times, and it's a fear of loss. Francis Bridges says that we plant seeds of resilience in the ways that we process negative events. So what are these seeds, and how can we best nurture them into the mighty oaks and strong vines that we need? She says there are some basic beliefs that we may be holding on to that can impair our resiliency. We might believe that it's all our own fault. We personalize it. Somehow this situation, it's me. I'm the person that's making it happen. Or a sense of pervasiveness that this event is going to affect everything in our life and it's never going to be the same again. And that sense of permanence, that it will never be the same again. So everything's changed, it's never going to be the same again, and it must be my fault. And I think there's a fourth one that we sometimes add, it's projection. It's the belief that someone else is to blame, and we see a lot of this happening in our culture right now, right? We want to point the finger and make someone else the culprit and punish them or target them so that somehow we'll feel better about the change or the situation. But resilience is available to us when we realize that hardships really aren't entirely our fault, they don't affect every aspect of our lives, and they won't follow us everywhere forever. And also, they're not going to get better because we blamed someone else. It's also a form of hardiness when we find out that we can find a meaningful purpose in life, that we can influence our surroundings and the outcome events. It's not all out of our control. And the belief that positive and negative experiences, that choosing, we can let go of it, and it will lead to some learning and growth. And that our relationships with other people will be a source of capacity building and our learning and growth. So in other words, no matter what happens, we see ourselves as empowered meaning makers that are capable of handling life's curveballs and growing as a result. So what does this have to do with congregational life? I believe that connecting with a faith community and developing spiritual practices, as Barbara described, doing those things together encourages and allows us to deepen and practice resiliency. And like her example of the Zen Buddhism and the use of koans, we can create systems to care for one another and hold life's traumas and complexity. And when we do that, we can find that enjoying life's simple pleasures together is what increases our happiness. Like singing together, gardening together, even serving on a committee together or volunteering together can build our strength and our capacity to hold challenges and difficulties in perspective. By being a member of a community, we are encouraged to share our struggles, and where we find joy and connection has real impact on our capacity for resiliency. So it's also true that our capacity for resilience is related to our own access to support through communities, through friends and family, and through cultural connections. So adversity comes in many different forms and may even challenge our overall well-being. But more than any factor, our social relationships have really important implications for our health. We can provide a foundation of health for each other. Did you know that? Yeah. Because we found out that stress and trauma are more easily managed when we have people in our lives that bring positive and supportive messages to us. And it works the opposite way, right? When we have negative social situations, like being isolated or facing oppression and discrimination, these are actually bad for our health. And we have way worse health outcomes when we're surrounded by that kind of adversity. This is traceable to the cellular level, y'all. It's deeply embedded in who we are. So how we treat each other and how we make room for each other is essential to our shared well-being. So after more than 2 years in a global pandemic, when our connections and normal access to social supports have basically been decimated, when our jobs and meaningful work have changed for so many people, we're facing a really big challenge. It's our challenge and our ability to be resilient. We've had an incredible level of grief and loss that's been compounded by the trauma that's evinced by racial and economic injustices and inequality. as well as deepening divides in our communities. These are all taking an incredible toll on us. We have a political system that is tearing apart and fraying. We have folks who are more focused on power at the expense of truth, which threatens the very fabric of our democracy. These have real impacts on our well-being. When I look around, it looks like high-functioning, resilient organizations and networks are in really short supply today. Yeah? And we need them. Because when we're able to focus not just on our own well-being, but the well-being of our community, of all the folks who are around us, we have more capacity to recover from life's challenges and trauma. We may have more personal tools, and these can be rendered useless in the face of hostility and oppression. So finding ways to bring support and care and to disrupt systems of oppression is a key to the resilience in our communities. So we can create this through the policies that we promote. For example, we're learning that in countries where social supports like universal free health care and paid parental leave are provided by the government, studies find that those people are happier and healthier. Amen, right? That seems so simple to me. And that, in turn, seems to help them bounce back from challenges and disasters. So when these supports are missing, people suffer psychologically. And while that feels like a no-brainer, the work that we do to support those kinds of changes in our communities is essential to all of our well-being. So as leaders struggle to deliver the specific supports that we need in this time and this place, like that access to affordable health care or unemployment benefits, financial supports for lower-income families and individuals, housing, and state governments work to figure out how to administer these safety nets, we are faced with our own challenges to connect and to support and to advocate for each other. When people are living on the margins, losing one important support can lead to an overall collapse because so little is supporting them. Social support networks are critical to resiliency, especially for those who are vulnerable. In areas where there's great wealth inequality, like we're experiencing right here in Phoenix, people suffer more ill health effects to begin with. And when we build some support for folks who are struggling at the margin, we don't create dependency, but instead we provide the proverbial ounce of prevention. Just providing the things that you've begun to provide in this space for the folks who come in here a couple times a week who don't have a place to live right now, you're helping create resiliency for other folks in our community. We build resilience by finding ways to engage in our community and in ways that feel meaningful and connected to our core values. And we need to keep reaching out to each other and advocating for those kinds of policies in our communities and programs in our organizations that deliver these supports that we need. And congregations are such an important social structure for building resiliency. Valley UU is a real model for this and the many thoughtful ways that you have organized your community that I've been learning about. Your pastoral care that's available, your neighborhood connectors, your faith formation classes, as well as the service and justice work that you engage in every day, which you will have opportunities to do right after service. All of that is so important. There's so many ways that you can appreciate one another and address each other's needs. So what makes a group of people resilient? People across all kinds of disciplines say that what causes that they want to know the answers to what causes some systems to absorb and retain integrity and purpose. Why are some people and some organizations able to do that? There seems to be two things that are really important to resilience: continuity and recovery in the face of change. So just as people don't bounce back to exactly who and what they were before experiencing trauma, you will be different. We are different. Systems can reconfigure themselves and continuously and fluidly adapt. We ourselves can continuously and fluidly adapt. while continuing to fulfill our basic purposes. So just as people learn and grow from challenges, organizations find that making some regular modest failures are actually essential to many forms of resilience. It allows a system to release and then reorganize some of its resources. So did you hear that? Experiencing failure, having things break down and not function the way they used to, I think you've experienced that recently, yes? That can actually help an organization redevelop in ways that make it more resilient and more functional in the long run. This is great news. It's okay to fail and learn from it. It's gonna make us all better and stronger. And when an organization develops resiliency, it faces challenges and failure differently. There's a kind of flexibility and adaptability that allows them to just heal in the wake of the breach. And the truth is that a seemingly perfect system is actually more fragile, while a dynamic system, subject to an occasional failure, stuff didn't work, whoops, try something different, can actually be the most robust. So resilience is like life itself, messy, imperfect, and inefficient. I give you permission to be messy, imperfect, and inefficient, and learn from it, and grow from it, and reorganize around it. So it's time to be willing to embrace the messy and the imperfect. We're gonna do that together. What do we need to develop our resiliency? It turns out that this is something that we can learn and teach over time, and this is because our resilience is rooted not only in our beliefs and values, in our character and our experiences, but also in our habits of mind, habits that we can cultivate and change. So I've been saying, if you've read what I've been writing, that we must move at the speed of trust and our ability to give each other space and grace. Trust comes from our ability to cooperate and collaborate and to weave together different ways of doing things and knowing things and to stay open to new experiences and to give each other space to make mistakes now and then, to not know and learn. One of the challenges is in developing a willingness to cooperate and collaborate across difference. I'm going to do some things pretty differently from your last two ministers. Some of you will celebrate that, and some of you will mourn it, and some of you will just be confused by it. Hopefully, some of you just won't even notice. One of the challenges is getting people to enlarge their sense of who belongs. But one simple and powerful way to do this is to get people who see themselves as on different sides to practice walking together, side by side. Literally walking together. In the Middle East, this practice has led to groups of people walking from one city to another, spending long periods of time side by side and simply listening to one another. So being side by side as opposed to face decreases our engagement of ego and allows us to step outside of feeling competitive and allows us to cooperate. We need to learn more ways to walk together and listen to each other. In essence, we need to make conflict into a process that we work through rather than a barrier we get stuck with. So let's go walk together. When we have been willing to speak truthfully with each other and to speak up when conflict is damaging our community and goals, we also have to be ready and willing to speak truthfully to systems of power, to interrupt and intervene when we see harm being done, and to allow different paradigms and practices into our organizations, to see the difference between diversity and harm. To see the difference between diversity and harm. So resilient people create organizations that are built from trust, reciprocity, and collaboration, and an interest in something more than self-preservation and self-interest that comes from an understanding of interdependence. So while we may not look the same, and our organizations may also look very different over time, what VUU looks like today is not what will look like in 5 years or maybe even in a year. things are going to shift and change. But we can experience continuity as a result of resiliency, and we can survive and even thrive. As our song is about to say to us, I am resilient. I trust the movement. I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. These times are poignant. The winds have shifted. It's all we can do to stay uplifted. My voice feels tiny, and I'm sure so does yours. But put us all together, and we'll make a mighty roar. Amen. We don't know how it's all going to work out. We may struggle with the uncertainty of life's challenges. I hope that here at VUU, you find that you are not alone, that your survival is important to all of us, and that each of us belongs here together. No matter what is happening in the world around us, we can create communities that hold us in love and respect and freedom. We can learn from and connect to each other in new ways that redefine love and that build new capacities to continue to savor and save the world. We can be the mighty roar again and again and again. Part of being resilient together is sharing our resources, our personal resources, our time, our talent, our treasure, in all the ways that we are able. Today we're going to pass the baskets around in the room, but online you can give through texting, through sending us stuff in the mail, by volunteering, sending us an email, whatever way that you were able to give of yourself and your time. As the basket passes, whether you're putting something in there now or you've already put it in there, send a little prayer with it. A prayer for our collective resiliency.
Speaking of systems that fail, we had a microphone go out. So we're going to pivot and be resilient. I'm going to move some gear real quick. This song is called Resilient.
I am resilient, I trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. These times are poignant, the winds have shifted. It's all we can do to stay uplifted. Pipelines through backyards, wolves howling out front. Yeah, I got my crew, but truth is what I want. Realigned and on point, power to the peaceful. Prayers at the waters, women at the center. All vessels open to give and receive. Let's see the system brought down to its knees. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ooh, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. I'm made of thunder, I'm made of lightning, I'm made of dirt, yeah, made of the fine things. My father taught me that I'm a speck of dust and this world is made for me. So let's go and try our luck. I got my roots down, 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 down deep. I got my roots down, 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 down deep. I got my roots down, down, down deep. I got my roots down, down, down deep. So what are we doing here? What has been done? What are we gonna do about it when the world comes undone? My voice feels tiny, and I'm sure so does yours. Put it all together, make a mighty I trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen.
I'll show up again and again and again. That is my promise to you. Spirit of life and love.
In this time of uncertainty, of fear and angst, our nation holds its collective breath. In this time, when rhetoric blusters about and words are used as weapons, our nation clenches its fists, tightens its shoulders, eyes squeezed shut. Some are preparing for a fight.
May we remember that we are a people of resilience. We have faced uncertainty before. We have weathered storms. We have been consumed by flames. We have risen like the phoenix from the ashes, and we will again. We the people. May we remember our shared humanity, our universal kinship, our interdependence as we unclench our fists and breathe together, breathing in love, breathing out peace.
May we recognize the spark of the divine inside each of us, even those we are not quite sure about. In this time of uncertainty, we remember the good will go on. As we work to move forward together, we the people seeking that which unites us, with our arms reaching out wide for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May love prevail.
Amen, and blessed be. And won't you join us in our closing song that Katie's going to be leading us in?
Please stand in body or in spirit. We're going to sing our beloved hymn, When the Spirit Says Do, and I do invite you to move your body.
But only if the Spirit says to move it.
Yes.
You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance. Oh Lord, you gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing. Oh Lord, you gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 You gotta do what the Spirit says. Spirit says do.
Please join me in saying our extinguishing the chalice words as they appear magically on our screen that's in front of us. And though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.
I'm going to say something just real quick. So Marcy has a couch that we could not, with the 4 staff people, get into a room. And if you are strong and willing after service to go help move that couch into the teen room, the teens and Marcy will be forever grateful. Just saying. And I promised I'd give this message, so now I get some points, okay?
Cake, remember cake.
And I promised to say that Reverend Sarah is a big YouTube fan, so this is to welcome her in.
Johnny, take a walk with your sister the moon. Let her pale light in to fill up your room. You've been living underground, eating from a can. You've been running away from what you don't understand. Love, life's mystical, it's sliding down. Love will be there when you hit the ground. But it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. He moves in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. We move in mysterious ways. Johnny, take a dive with your sister, the rain. Let her talk about things you can't explain. To love is to heal, to hurt is to steal. If you wanna reach the sky, better learn how to kneel. I'm thinking about life's the wave, love turns the tide. Spirit sees the man inside that child. Yeah. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. We move in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. We move in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Live my days and light up my nights. One day you look back, you will see where you were held by this love. While you could stand there, you could move in this moment and follow that feeling. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Spirit moves in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Spirit moves in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Love moves in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Love moves in mysterious ways. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Lift my days